Last college football game that I have to preview for week 0 of the college football season is going to be Notre Dame taking on Florida State. This game is going to be played this Sunday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time kickoff on ABC. Notre Dame is currently entering this game as a 7.5-point favorite. Now, for FSU, they came out and they released their starting depth chart, who the starters are most likely going to be in this game, but we don't know who's going to be the starting quarterback yet because that was announced. So I'm expecting it to be Mackenzie Millen from what I've seen out of him in the spring game and spring practice. Mackenzie Millen definitely is the best QB, and I think he's going to give this team the best chance to win. So I'm just speculating that Mackenzie Millen is going to end up winning the starting job and that he's going to end up being the starter in this game. Now, if Jordan Travis is the starter, then I'll touch on that a little bit also. But Mackenzie Millen gives them the best chance to win because Jordan Travis is a really good runner, but he's not really that great of a thrower. So Jordan Travis, I think we will see him in this game despite if he starts or doesn't start, because he's going to be a little bit of a factor when it comes to the run game. He led the team in rushing yards last season, so I do think that they're going to have some formation set for Jordan Travis. But with Mackenzie Milton at QB, okay, how is he going to look? Now, in the spring game, he looked really good. Now, we still don't really know how mobile he's going to be. He may not have the dynamic running ability that he had a couple of years ago when he was playing for UCF, but I do think that he still should be able to extend some plays and be able to pick up a couple of yards when need be. He's going to have to be able to do that because this offensive line for FSU still looks incredibly shaky, and if you're an FSU fan, I'm pretty sure that that's one of the biggest concerns that you have going into this game. Now, for Notre Dame, their offensive line also is, in a little bit of a questionable spot because you lost a lot of great players to the NFL. You lost Liam Eichenberg, Robert Hainsey, Aaron Banks, Tommy Kramer. So they're going to be trotting out a new look offensive line, but we kind of just give Notre Dame a pass when it comes to the offensive line because Notre Dame is offensive line. They churn out these new offensive linemen year in and year out. I don't know where they find these guys at. I don't know what they feed these guys, but Notre Dame is really good when it comes to developing offensive linemen. But when you look at the FSU offensive line, I definitely have my concerns because the offensive line has been a huge problem ever since Jimbo Fisher's last season as a head coach at FSU to Willie Taggart, and even last year. Now, FSU has hit the transfer portal pretty hard, so we're going to see if they're going to be able to put something together. But overall, this is an offensive line in FSU that I don't really have a lot of confidence in. Now, you can probably say the same thing about Notre Dame, but let's be honest, we just give Notre Dame the benefit of a doubt that their offensive line is going to be solid because they're really good at developing offensive linemen. Now, the FSU defense was god-awful last year. Jesus, it was awful. So what did FSU do to improve it? Well, they hit the transfer portal pretty hard. You got Jermaine Johnson, who should improve your pass rush. You got Jamie Robinson there. So those two guys, let alone, should help improve the defense slightly. FSU's strongest link on the defense probably is going to be linebacker. You have a really solid group of linebackers, and you have good depth there at that position. And you're going to need those linebackers to step up and not only be really good against the run game, but also really good against the tight ends, because Notre Dame is a team that heavily utilizes all of their tight ends that they currently have. Sometimes they'll run 2 tight end sets, sometimes they'll run 3 tight end sets, and even if they're running those 3 tight end sets, they may not be throwing the football with them. They may have those guys in the block. So tight end is a really important position for Notre Dame when it comes to what they're trying to do offensively. When you think about Notre Dame, this is a team that isn't built on a big play. You're going to have Jack Cohen, that quarterback there. So I don't really think you're getting an upgrade from Ian Book. I pretty much think him and Jack Cohen are in the similar situation. Kind of, they're above average QBs. So when you look at Jack Cohen, he's somebody who is going to be smart to football. He's not going to turn the football over, and that plays right well into what Notre Dame wants to do offensively. Notre Dame wants to control time possession. They want to be methodical and they want to be efficient, which means that they want to be good on third down. They want to be able to keep drives alive. So if you're FSU, what are you going to have to be able to do to win this game? Well, the first thing you're going to have to do if you're Florida State is you're going to have to be able to win up front, and you're going to have to be able to stop running back Kyron Williams, who last year led Notre Dame in rushing yards. He had 1,125 rushing yards and 13 touchdowns. He's explosive and he's really hard to get down when he gets into the open field. So it's going to be up to those linebackers to see if they can try to find a way to infiltrate that running game. On top of that, FSU has to find a way to get off the field some way, somehow. Rather they get off the field forcing a turnover, or if they get off the field trying to get a stop on third down. Now, I probably would say that if they're going to find a way to get off the field, it's probably going to be being able to get a stop on third down, because this defense wasn't really all that great at forcing turnovers last year. As a matter of fact, Asante Samuel Jr. was responsible for the majority of the turnovers that FSU had last year. So for Florida State, where are the turnovers going to come from? They got to come from somewhere. And on top of that, FSU is going to have to heavily rely on the running game in this game, because when you look at these wide receivers, I don't think it's a bad group, but at the same time, I definitely feel like there's a lot of things to be desired with the wide receiving core that FSU currently has. You do have some experience there, but overall, I don't really think the wide receiving core for FSU is nothing to write home about. And you can say the same thing about Notre Dame, because I know you FSU fans are going to be like, well, JT, Notre Dame's wide receivers aren't nothing to write home about neither, and I do agree with that. The difference between you and Notre Dame is that Notre Dame has a very good carousel of tight ends. So for Notre Dame, their tight ends are also heavily involved in what they do in the passing game. So for me personally, you look at the addition that Notre Dame had, one of the biggest additions in all of college football this past offseason was bringing in former Cincinnati defensive coordinator Marcus Freeman. He's been really big for Notre Dame on the recruiting trail, and his defenses have been really good. So Notre Dame's defense was one of the best in all of college football last year, and I definitely feel like there's no reason why that shouldn't be the case this year also. This is going to be a really good defense. So when you look at FSU, man, like, you really are going to have your hands tied if you're Mike Norvell, okay, because you don't really know how your offensive line situation is going to pan out. You do have McKenzie Milton, so McKenzie Milton is going to be able to make some plays to keep you in the game, but overall, do you have enough talent around him to keep this respective competitive game? Now, this game is going to be at FSU, so you're going to have the home field advantage. You're going to have the FSU crowds at full capacity. It's going to be loud. It's going to be noisy, so that could affect the Notre Dame offense. But overall, I'm still rocking with Notre Dame to win this game. I do think that they will cover that 7.5 spread. I think Notre Dame wins this game, and I think they win pretty convincingly. I think they're going to win this game 38-17 is going to be my final score prediction in this game. The way I see this game going is similar to how that Clemson-Miami game went last year. Remember, Miami had a really dynamic quarterback in D'Eriq King, but despite having that dynamic QB in D'Eriq King, their overall team just wasn't that talented enough. Clemson was way better up front, and Miami's offensive line couldn't stop Clemson's defensive line from getting back in the backfield. And I think we're going to see a similar situation play out in this game for FSU. I know they've hit the transfer portal really hard, but at the end of the day, man, like, this offensive line is still a work in progress. It's a lot to be desired. I think Notre Dame is going to be able to win the battle up front on both sides of the football, and I think Notre Dame is going to be able to play this game the way they want to play it, by controlling time possession, ball control offense, being effective on third down. I don't really trust the secondary for FSU. It's really shaky right now. So for FSU, man, this is still a team that is a work in progress. So I'm going to take Notre Dame to win this game, and I think Notre Dame is going to win big, and they're going to win this game pretty convincingly.